Almost exactly 1 year ago tonight, Tulsa put itself on the map as the Golden Hurricanes stunned then defending national champion Louisville 68-60. That victory was Tulsa's first major step in its climb towards national recognition. 4 months later in March, that climb would end. The Golden Hurricane took the Big Apple by storm as they upended local favorite Syracuse 86-84 to win the NIT championship. Tonight, Tulsa tries to take its biggest step yet as the Golden Hurricane travels to Chapel Hill to meet the Tar Heels of North Carolina, the #1 ranked team in the nation.
From Kendall Hall at the University of Tulsa, this is TU Sports Magazine.
Good evening. We are 30 minutes away from the clash between the 9th-ranked Golden Hurricane and top-ranked North Carolina. During the next half hour, we are going to do an in-depth preview into both teams, talk to both coaches, and talk with 3 of Tulsa's most prominent sports figures who are in the studio with us now. On my far left is Bob Carpenter from KTUL Channel 8 Television. He is their highest-ranked sportsman out there at the moment. Also sitting right next to Bob in the middle is Bill Tegans, the sports director of Channel 6. Bill, it's going to be a fascinating ball game this evening.
Should be a great game, Bill. I think it'll say a lot about Tulsa, what'll happen. Everybody's looking forward to the kind of season the Hurricane will have, and this will tell a lot, I think, about what kind of season Tulsa will have.
And sitting next to Bill and closest to me is Jerry Weber, the voice of the Golden Hurricane and the sports director at Channel 2. Jerry, the NIT was a biggie. Tonight's just as big?
Well, I think so, in a way. There's no trophy goes with this one, a lot of prestige. What I'm looking forward to, I think it's a classic matchup of 2 of the great bench coaches in America, Nolan Richardson, Dean Smith. And I can't wait to see the moves and the counter moves we're going to see tonight.
Well, we may see a lot of strategy, but
Yes.
we're also going to see a lot of very good play on the floor, a lot of
True.
natural athletic ability. We have film of both teams, both North Carolina and Tulsa, which we're going to have coming up in just a moment when TU Sports Magazine returns right after this message. The North Carolina Tar Heels are a notoriously fast-starting club. Last year they defeated Indiana early on in the season, and then in March fell to Indiana in the NCAA final. But this year North Carolina hopes to hold on to their #1 ranking. Chip Ard takes a close look at the team many regard as the best in the country.
The Tar Heels of North Carolina, America's #1 team? Well, many think so, but to hang on to that preseason ranking of #1 has become increasingly difficult in recent years. The Tar Heels certainly are not lacking in depth, but the loss of All-American Al Wood to the NBA may be a deficit that North Carolina will find hard to cope with. The leader in this year's backcourt will be 6'3" senior Jimmy Black. Black led last year's team with 188 assists and 64 steals. Last year's ACC Rookie of the Year, Sam Perkins, also returns this year. Perkins, a 6'9" sophomore, averaged 14.9 points and 7.8 rebounds per game last season. James Worthy, a 6'9" junior, and the last of the 3 returning starters, averaged 14.2 points and 8.4 rebounds per game. Worthy also pumped in 23 points in the Tar Heels season opener triumph against Kansas University. Combining with Black, Perkins, and Worthy will be 6 other returning lettermen and 5 very capable freshmen. About the only question mark concerning this year's team is how to replace the scoring capability of Al Wood. If standout freshman Mike Jordan can live up to expectations, then the chances are very good that North Carolina could hold on to its #1 ranking for a very long time.
Bob Carpenter from Channel 8. Al Wood, the loss of Al Wood. Is that going to be as big a factor as many people think it could be?
Well, Bill, I think it's hard to tell how much of a factor a loss of one player is going to be. I think it does indicate, though, that there's an overall lack of depth with North Carolina. I think that could be a factor in the ball game. Maybe more so of a factor if the game was being played here in Tulsa, but you're in Chapel Hill with the ACC officials. And I know that Nolan Richardson thinks that's going to be more of a detriment to him than to North Carolina. TU may have to go to their bench more than NC will. And I know Nolan is concerned because if his team fouls the way they did in their past ball game, they could be in trouble on the road, given the fact that you're on the road with ACC officials, and it's a real snake pit to go in and play, one of the real hotbeds of college basketball.
Jerry, let me ask you for a second. Mike Jordan, everybody is building up, or Nolan called him the next David Thompson. He has sort of taken Al Wood's spot, at least that spot in the lineup. Is Jordan this great a ball player?
Oh, I think he's a great freshman. I think Nolan considers him probably the best, kid to come out of the high school ranks last year. But nobody takes an Al Wood's place in 1 year. Al Wood had been there 4 years. Leadership, all that kind of thing. Jordan's not going to fill that. I don't think the pivotal thing is Jordan. I think controlling Worthy and Perkins. I think that's the key to the basketball game. When you play on the road, you got to play great defense, and I think that gives Tulsa a chance. Bob made a real good point about, the ACC considers itself a finesse league. So are they going to accept the officials? Are they going to accept Tulsa's tactics in the press? Or are they going to call a lot of fouls? Tulsa does have a lot of depth, though, and may be able to overcome that.
Bill, we've been hearing both men have mentioned, even though I didn't directly ask it, it's obvious. Nolan says it. The ACC officials, all three officials in this game are from the ACC. What do you think? Do you think that will have an impact on the ball game?
Oh, I think the biggest, it'll probably have an impact anytime you go, but I think the biggest problem TU will face is playing the tradition and the kind of thing that goes on at North Carolina. It's like playing Oklahoma in football or Southern Cal in football. North Carolina has always been a hotbed for basketball, and I think if TU can handle that kind of pressure this early in the season, I think that will be a big factor in the game.
We've been talking about North Carolina for the past 2 or 3 minutes and saying what depth they have. Tulsa's a team that fields about 11 or 12 clubs, but the University of Tulsa is also a team that has 6 players that are probably the 6 who do the most work for them. Here is a look at the players that Tulsa hopes will